down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, I am honored to have one of my great real estate investors, side hustle friend, technology wizard, Lee Smith from Indiana. So you live in Indianapolis, or how do you say it?
Yeah, we live in Indy or Indianapolis.
Well, it's really Fisher, because when we hung out, you were in Fisher.
Yeah, I live in Fishers, like plural.
Oh,
so, yeah, I live in Fishers. It's a suburb up in northeast Indianapolis.
So it's like Illinois. Illinois.
You don't say the S in Illinois, but you do say the S in Fishers.
I don't want to know. All right. I do want to buy property there one day. I think that you're on a hotbed of real estate success there. And since you are in Indiana, let's just give a perspective of people may have not heard you before. You are a property manager / investor yourself / wholesaler, and you work with VAs internationally, but you actually have international investors. So what's that like working with people that never have set foot in your market, and why Fishers?
So actually, they're all interested mainly in Indianapolis, and so we're only like 2 or 3 minutes away from Indy, northeast of it. So I'll give you my 30-second 30-second elevator speech that tells you who I am, what I do. I'm a real estate investor here in Indianapolis, ex-Microsoft engineer. I own a property management company. We help investors, both foreign and domestic, with purchase. We help them with rehab. Basically right now I'm managing $40,000 to $50,000 a month in rehabs. And then I help them with the property management. We have a property management side, so we basically concentrate on low income stuff, but our rentals range in price anywhere from $450 a month up over $1,700 a month. So we do some high end stuff too. And then we help them with the sales on the backside. So we're kind of tightening our ship. We're only really working with experienced investors because, they're nothing against newbies, but they just kind of just
waste
don't
your time.
Get it yet. Yeah, well, it's just they don't get it, and I spend so much time talking them through processes and stuff that I just don't have time for it, And they want to, they're book smart and then common sense dumb, and so it's just a huge stress for me. And so this year even most of last year, we stopped working with new investors. If they've got multiple properties or whatever, we'll work with them. But yeah, so we work with a lot of, getting back to your question, we do work with a lot of foreign investors. We have 63 active investors currently. And I would say we probably have 5 to 10 of them that are foreign. So we have one from Dubai. I have one from Finland. I have one from, I have a couple from Israel. I have some from Australia, one in Korea, South Korea. I have to clarify that, right? South Korea. So we have investors all over the world. And so we kind of work with them. And a lot of them I've never met. A few of them fly into town and want to go look at properties and, want to meet me and stuff like that. So, but it's surprising to me how many people that we actively work with that we've never met. I have one guy that's been with me for over 10 years, and I've never met him, and he has like 30-something properties with us.
All right. So how long have you been doing what you're doing as a property manager investor? How long have you been doing that?
So I've been flipping houses since 1991. I flipped my first house in 1991. I became a realtor in 2007 because I hated dealing with realtors. I became a property manager in 2007 because one of the investor clients that I was working with, he had to move back to Atlanta, Georgia, and he was just like, here, take over my properties. And so I was like, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies, but we kind of dove into it. And so as the years have progressed, I've actually switched to where I'm not doing as many flips anymore, and I'm basically buying and holding.
Well, that's what you should do. When I first met you and you were all Mr. Property Manager working with all these investors, wholesalers, I was like, man, you got to buy assets. So I'm so excited to hear that. You have 10 years on me, roughly, in real estate. How do you sustain, I had a question, some young investor asked me, do you love real estate? And, I didn't wake up when I was young, I'm going to be a real estate investor. I thought I was going to be a computer nerd. And I know you can relate to that since you're from Microsoft. And that's a lot of our kinship, you and I. We could talk forever, and my life has been changed because of yoga, Lenovo. But how do you stay motivated, and how, to avoid or deal with burnout? Because, you mentioned something earlier before we got on the air. I was very intrigued about that. So tell me how you deal with that.
So I think all investors go through burnout, whether they want to admit it or not. A year or so ago, we were kicking it. And back then I had a real big goal of it growing our property management side. So we were adding 10 or 11 properties per month to our property management roles. And, it got to the point where, I was just working hard. I was, I get my kids on the bus at 8:30 in the morning, and then I would be crushing it all day long. Kids would come home 4 o'clock. I'd spend a little bit of time with them, and then I would get back down into my office or my hole and just start messing with it again. And so I'd be up to 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then just start the whole process over the next day. And then I got sick, just pretty sick, just normal cold stuff, not like anything, deadly.
Yeah, like sickle cell? I'm like, what's going on?
Nothing deadly. I just had a nasty cold, and it took me out for like 2 weeks. It was just the weirdest thing. I don't get sick like that. And so anyway, it just kind of took me out. And then when I came back and I'm looking at all the work I got to do to get caught up, I was massively burned out. And so it took me a while to get over it. And then, back then we were a lot smaller than we are now. And so it just made me realize I needed to start hiring people. And, I really get a kick out of going to events or meeting up with other savvy investors. Here, check it out, man, savvy investor hat on. And I really get a kick out of it when you're around people who do what you do or are better than you. I like going to events where I'm the stupid guy in the room, and that doesn't happen very often for me. I'll toot my own horn, but
I was like, what the? Yeah.
But it doesn't happen to me where I go to a conference or whatever, and I'm the dumb guy in the room, and I love that, and it really gets me jazzed and energized. And talking to people like yourself, when we hang out at some conferences and stuff, or hanging out with some of my other people that I hang out with, Thomas or Amy, or Bob Dressman, stuff like that. These guys, whenever you're around them, and you just kind of feed off of each other, And I always tell the story about when you and I were at OREA, and there was like 4 or 5 of us, and we were supposed to be in a session, but instead we were in the bar hanging out, having some food and stuff.
Yeah. And
that you got a text message from somebody who wanted to buy a house you had just bought. And so we're all sitting around the table. It's like 6 of us, and we're all talking around. No. Here's what you need to do. You need to text back with this. No. This is what you need to say. And by the end of it, you were buying for us, because we had worked the deal out for you, and you were going to make some good change.
No, I made 50 on that deal.
That's what I'm talking about. So we were like, you got to buy, but that really jazzes us, right? So, I'm trying to plan out 2019 conferences for this year, and it's hard for me not to. I would love to do one a month, but instead I'm trying to do every 2 or 3 months, space them out a little bit, because you do start to get dry and you start to get burned out, and you got to get back into that groove. Cool. Also, talking to other guys who are doing what we're doing, over the phone and masterminding.
Cool.
Working with them.
All right. Let's transition. One thing that popped in my head that I admire you is that you're always being creative, and I guess you have an entrepreneur bone in you. You do some unique things, like you provide other services for your investors. You go and look at property for a specific fee. You give a monthly report, and I think that helps you as well, right? Because I think where you burned out, and then you're coming up with creative ideas to help other investors. Tell me about this stuff. And I think I know you have a heart for realtors, which I don't. But
No, well, not really. I mean, I can count the number of realtors that I like on one hand, and I lost 5 of those fingers in a chainsaw accident. So.
okay, so we're on the same page. But you have some unique, and let's just help other realtors out there. I mean, they probably don't listen to this shit anyway. But tell us some things that you do to help other investors that some other realtor can adopt.
Sure. So, a lot of the stuff that we have designed is stuff that I use day to day, my ex-Microsoft days or whatever. I mean, I'm a proactive guy and I'm a systems guy. So a lot of stuff is stuff that I use when I'm looking for deals. And then I figure out a way to hire that out to my VAs or whatever like this. I mean, so, some stuff that I do is we do a daily deal list where we basically cruise the MLS for everything that got listed like yesterday. So every house that got listed yesterday on our local MLS, that's $150,000 or less, then we run we do a comparison. We look at the assessed value of the property, the tax assessed value of the property, and if the list price when it got listed is 90% or less, then we're marking that as a potential deal for our investors to look at. And then we include a little spreadsheet, and it's basically gives them basic information about the house, but it also gives them a link to a CMA, a comparative market analysis. So our investors are paying like $50 a month for this list, and every day they get a new email with, usually it's between 3 to 10 properties per day that are potential deals. And then they can click the links and they can go do their own research and see if it's something that they want us to look at. And then at that point, they'll call us and say, hey, I'm interested in this property. And so we'll send one of our guys out to take a look at it. And we'll give them another thing that we do is we offer a service for $100 where we'll go videotape a house. And we've got our gimbal. Here, I'll show you it real quick. We've got our gimbal set up where we can walk out and take video of the property. And we'll take video of the property. And as we're walking through the property, we're pointing out all the issues we see. And then when we leave, we come back and we write down like a scope of work, and we give an estimate of what the work is that the property needs. And then we upload the videos and let our investors take a look at that. But these are all things that I use myself. I mean, when I am looking through the MLS, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Those are exactly what I want. And so, we charge $50 a month for that daily deal list. I got a virtual assistant that's in the Philippines, and she goes through and does that every day for us. It takes her about half an hour a day to do, 45 minutes a day to do. And then we also, when I go to video or when I go to look at a house, I videotape the house. I walk through the house, I'm looking at everything, and I'm recording everything, and everything I see, I'm getting, and marking down. And then I come back, and then I'll either just send it off to my VA and have them transcribe it, or I will watch it myself, and then I'll just write my notes out, scope of work, and then I can estimate how much work it needs, and then I can come up with my max allowable offer on that stuff. So we do a lot of that sort of stuff. We also offer, now this is something cool that I think realtors should be doing, and I don't think anybody does. It is, in most of the softwares that realtors have, it's easy to run a CMA, a comparative market analysis. And so we charge $5 for a CMA, and it gives a person a 1/4-mile radius of active, pending, and sold houses and that have happened over the past year, and then like leases that have happened over the past 2 years. And so we sell that for $5. So if you call me and you're like, hey, I got this address, 123 Main Street, I want you to do a CMA on it, my VA is doing that for me. She logs in, she runs the CMA, and she sends it to you. It takes her less than 5 minutes. Excuse me. Takes her less than 5 minutes, and you get your CMA. You paid $5 for it. And, I'm not even trying to break into that part of the deal, but it could easily, both that list that we do, the daily deal list, and that CMA could easily help investors and help a realtor get the business.
No, so I think that's an ingenious, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's an ingenious idea. The question is, the daily deal is remarkable. And the one thing I think I need to make very clear is that you outsource that whole thing, that whole process.
I don't do any of it anymore.
Yeah, I just think it's residual income. You have so many investors around the world paying you $50 a month to do a daily list of mining deals off the CMA. You throw it in a spreadsheet. They do the analytics. They do the comps, and they just basically spoon it up for you. Here you go, take it or not. Then they say, hey, you have a few guys that really are interested, or gals that are interested in a few properties. Then you get commission. Then you go and actually physically walk the property, which I've learned from you with your GoPro.
Right.
That's ingenious. When, as an entrepreneur, a lot of people can't let go. They have, it has to be perfect. It has to be, when was a defining moment when you were like, man, I can't go forward? I mean, I know we want to make money, and I don't know how many investors are paying for the $50. Was it like the motivation to reach this residual income, or was it just out of need? How'd you let go? What was that moment that you started really outsourcing your business?
So anything that I procrastinate on, or anything that I don't like to do, I'm outsourcing it now. I mean, I probably a year and a half ago, I just realized that there is just certain things that I just do not like to do, and I procrastinate. And so I just came to the rationalization that I got to let go. And so I just created a way to do that. I mean, I don't even do the walkthrough videos anymore. I've got a guy who I hired like 4 or 5 months ago, and I gave him my entire old setup, my gimbal setup and my GoPro gimbal setup. And I gave it to him, and I said, you go out and videotape this. Now, over the past 2 or 3 months, we've trained him on what he's supposed to be looking for and what he's supposed to be talking about as he's, walking through these houses. But I don't even do those anymore. So like, awesome. we 6 months ago or 10 months ago, we were doing about $20,000 to $30,000 a month in rehabs for people. And now it's $40,000 to $50,000 and maybe even more than that. But it was purely, I outsourced it. So this guy drives a half an hour, spends a half an hour at the property, and then, comes back and uploads the video. And then I have got it. It's all through Dropbox and YouTube. And so I'll just go watch the video. So it takes me 15 minutes to watch a video, come up with a scope of work, how much effort is going to be involved, or what the prices are. And then I give it to my people, to whoever the investor is, or, if it's my own stuff, then I just do it. But yeah, so I mean, we outsource almost everything anymore. And it was funny because we went to OREA in November, and that was the first time that the 2 days before OREA, I wasn't like killing myself trying to get stuff done. I mean, I was in a pretty good place because I've been outsourcing a lot of my stuff to either VAs or homegrown part-timers that are working from their own home. We do everything remotely. We don't have a physical office. Everything is remotely.
I set a goal to be nimble and to be out of the office. All right, I got a burning question. Now, this is going to be a little sensitive. So,
are you sure you don't need to go see a doctor about that burning, sensational question?
Yeah, I do. I know you personally. Now, a lot of people, when they hear a realtor that's an investor first, are you an investor first? Because are you taking the cherries and then giving them to the investors? Or are you thinking client first? And try to be as integrity, as honest as possible. I mean, I know that I work with an investor realtor, and I know that he doesn't have the capacity that I can produce and close.
Right.
But I always wonder in the back of my mind, did he just give me this crumb, or is he thinking in my best interest? And I know that you've taken an oath of real estate and all that BS, but let's just be authentic, mother effer. Tell me, it's all me first? Or
yeah, I mean, yes and no. So here's the difficult scoop. I'm always looking for deals for myself. I mean, that's what I built the business on, is for my own stuff. So I'm always looking for the ideal stuff. But there comes a point where you don't have the capacity anymore to deal with it. And so why not give that deal to one of your investors so that they can get that deal and they can get the benefits of that deal. And you've made them happy. And in the end, I mean, my whole business is based off of, I help them with the purchase, I help them with the rehab, I help them with the property management, and I help them with the sales. So I'm going to get a big freaking chunk of that whole process, whether I buy the deal or they buy the deal.
That's interesting. You're like a one-stop shop. I mean, that's pretty rare. I mean, I know that you're not adding 30% of these other companies on the East Coast that are doing turnkey. They're buying them for 20. They're putting 10 in them and they're selling them for 70 because they cap right. Matter of fact, I sent you somebody a phone number. Did anybody call you from California?
I mean, I get a lot of calls from California.
Okay. All right. So since, and I think you provide a valuable service. So it's got to make sense to you. So it's like, you're looking at the deal, man, you just don't have the capital at the moment. And then you're like, hey, this would be really good for Johnny. And then you kind of push it to him. And I know you got the cranky investors that call you, where's my deals? Or do you have any more deals? How do you handle those guys that are constantly calling you? Because we're such scarce of real deals. You know, the market has shifted. How do you handle those guys that are calling you almost to the degree of irritating? Or even, I've had someone the other day offer me like 10 G's to walk away from a deal. I don't know if that's that aggressive in your market, but in my market, I was like, no, I'm not. No, like, I'm going to keep this one for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, I set expectations up front. So yesterday I had an investor call me from Chicago, and he's selling a big apartment complex, and he wants to 1031 exchange into Indianapolis market. And so I just set the expectations up front. I go, look, man, I don't have the time or the energy to go out and look for deals for people. I just don't have it. So, I mean, if you want to go find a deal and bring it to me, I'll help you with, figuring out what it's going to take and getting it done and so on and so forth. Otherwise, if deals come through our system, then we'll throw it out to our people. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. If I got two investors sitting there and one investor is always like, oh man, you charged me $25 to clean a gutter out. And the other guy's like, get it done. The get it done guy's going to get first access to it.
Yeah.
So,
I think personality wins because it's a long-term game.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a handful of investors who, like it or not, they're the first ones that I hit up. And it may not even be like a formal hit up. It may just be like, I think I got a deal coming through and it's, here's the basics of it. And are you interested? And if they're like, yeah, I'm in, I'm interested. Then when it really kind of starts coming to fruition, I mean, if I got to prepare the whole thing and write it all out for somebody and send it out to my people, then, that's, a lot bigger process. And I just want the home runs. You know what I mean? I just want to get it done. I want to call somebody and say, here's what it's probably going to be. And I'll shoot you, the basic info, but you get what I do and I get what you do and you pay on time and blah, blah, blah. And that's how we usually work it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the authenticity. I appreciate that. All right. We're going to wind up on this podcast with one more question. And then I would love to have you back if you got time. But, let's think about the economy. The world, everyone's hating our president at the moment. It just seems all over the place. And I'm trying to get a pulse on the market in general. Like I have an idea. Some people think it's going to collapse in 2020. And then people think that it's going to, I've noticed that banks have loosened up a lot. I feel like I'm getting a call from a banker almost every week for some weird reason. And, and what we're negotiating terms. And then I have other banks that are like, your rate's going up by 2 points. It's just a lot of confusion. And I know you're dealing with a lot of out of the country people. What's the vibe that you're getting from actual physical investors? I don't want you to tell me what you think in the market. I want you to tell me what they're calling you and asking you and what's their pulse? What's their fear? What are they saying?
Well, a lot of them are very hesitant. Not necessarily hesitant to do deals, but when they'll come into town or we'll talk on the phone and they'll be like, well, what's your take on Trump? You're in the market, you're in the United States. What do you think of him?
We're all going to die.
Yeah. We're on an express elevator to hell going down.
Fast. Liquidate. Oh, wait, we have no government.
That's right. No government. So anyways, but I used to be heavy into politics and I was reading about it all the time and it's just damn depressing.
Get out.
Let's face facts. I don't think nothing's getting done. I mean, we're so, the left hates the right and the right hates the left and anybody suggests anything from the other side is like, screw you hippies. I'm not doing that. And so nothing's getting done. And so I'm just like, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, we see all this stuff that's supposedly coming down. And I mean, we're seeing some good stuff coming down. But, I'm just doing what I'm doing. And I tell people, I can't predict anything. and I'm not going to get heavily sedated into the whole, whatever, because then I start thinking about prepping and blah, blah, blah. That's just not where I want to be. I want my mental energies to be on real estate and working deals. And if you do your numbers right and you're getting good deals, I think that no matter what, whether the market does this or the market goes, whether it goes down or it goes up, you're going to be, as long as your numbers are right, you're going to be okay. I mean, I did flips all through the downturn, 2007 to 2010, and I was still making money.
Yeah,
so you got to be solid on your numbers. You really got to know your numbers. People who were failing were not knowing their numbers.
All right, so let me articulate what you're saying in the VanCauwenbergh way. So what you're saying is that there's just a lot of rhetoric. People are just fearful. They're just confused. They don't know what's going on. Just keep your head down and keep working. Because I was through 2008. Yeah, I bought a little bit higher right before the crash, but I still came out okay because the numbers just make sense. Right. And so another point that I think that you're trying to say is like hedge a little bit against the interest rate and make sure that you're not over leveraged, but you're soft enough. Keep with the 70%, 75% LTV, and just shut up and get out of the TV. Right? It's like.
Yeah. I mean, you could get so depressed watching the TV and everybody fighting back and forth. And, there's two sides to every story. So you're only getting one side when you're watching TV. I mean, we run into that a lot with just, people call me and they're wanting to rent and they're like, oh, I got booted out of my last place because my previous landlord was a blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, okay, what's the other side of that story?
True.
And we don't see it two sides of stories. We see one side of story anymore. So yeah, that's the reason that I'm just kind of like, put your head down. I will say that, there's a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me that are running numbers, and they think that we're going to have some sort of a correction, whether it's more of a stagnant straight on, for a couple of years, or whether it's going to dip down or it's going to be some, helter skelter, the world is ending thing. And I think that, me personally, I'm not looking, if I'm going to do a flip, I'm going to make sure the numbers are really, really right. But if otherwise, I'm just doing buy and hold, man. I mean, everybody's got to live in a place. Even in 2007 to 2010, everybody had to live somewhere. So, the rentals, I mean, in my market, at least, pretty much stayed even, and we still had no real trouble renting houses. So,
absolutely. If I was your coach, I would be like, buy and hold, buy and hold. Speaking of, let's just end with this last one. You mentioned flips. What's your parameters on flips? What's your total profit that you want? It must have, like, I will not get out of my chair unless I make blank. What's that number for you in Indiana?
So in short, 25%.
What's the dollar figure? I mean, 25,000 on $100,000.
It's 20. I want to make either 25 grand or I want to make 25%, whichever one is greater. And so
the minimum for you to be clear is 25 G's.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. And I'm a lot more hardcore than most investors. There's a book, Flip, by Gary Keller. And, there's a lot of hidden costs,
holding.
Yeah. Holding costs, hidden costs, stuff like
Realtor, TTRs, or whatever the freak it is.
Yeah. So when I run the numbers, well, let's say I think a house has 100,000 ARV. I'm going, okay, I want 75% of that. So we're at 75 grand. I want to put 10% of the ARV towards closing costs. So, whether that's, 6% to a realtor and 3% in closing costs, because that's what the buyers are asking for. So, you're easily, and then plus all the other crap that you got to pay. So you're easily 10 to 11% for closing costs. Then you got holding costs. I mean, I don't care if it's your money or it's somebody else's money. You want to figure your holding costs in. I want to make whatever. Let's say I want to be cheap to myself and I want to make 6%. So I'm going to figure if I got $50,000 in this deal, I'm going to amortize it over 30 years. And what would my mortgage payment be for those 6 months? And, at 6% or whatever I want to charge myself. And I'm going to put that into my formula. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to take me 6 months to flip this house. It's whatever. Let's say it's $600 or $400 a month. So $2,400 of holding costs. So I figured that in, you got to figure some fluff in there for utilities and some other sort of stuff like this. So, I mean, I run numbers, and then plus let's say you're wholesaling it. You want to take a wholesale number off the top of it. So, you got to add all that stuff together. And, a lot of people don't do it. A buddy of mine, I'll tell you a funny story. A buddy of mine was like, I asked him, I said, hey, house is worth 100,000 and you want to make 20 grand on the property. I said, what's your max allowable offer? And he's like, and I go, and it needs 20 grand in work.
Hey, man, put your microphone on your face.
Right here?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I told my buddy, I said, run me some numbers, 20K in repairs. You want to make a 20K profit, and the house is worth 100,000. I go, what's your max allowable offer? And he's like, 80,000 or 60,000. He was like 60,000, $20,000 profit and $20,000 in repairs. I'm going to buy it for 60. I go, you just lost 20 grand, dude.
Yeah. You can't sell it for retail without, you're going to pay 10% in closing costs.
Yeah. If you watch HGTV with your wife or, whoever, and you're watching it and you see those numbers come across the screen, we bought it for 100. We put 50 into it. We sold it for 200. We just made 50 grand. I'm like, no, sucker, you just lost 10 grand or, because there's just a lot of crap that goes into these deals and a lot of people don't realize it.
Yeah. All right, man. It's always a pleasure. I can't wait to have you back on the radio show. Thanks for tuning in to the Savvy Radio Show.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.